So, James Aiken-Smith, who am I? What's Action Coach? A little bit of background. I started working for myself in 1984. I think I probably fall into the category that Ian's talked about being a serial entrepreneur. I'm afraid I describe myself as an incurable entrepreneur. And over the past few years, I've worked with businesses from startups to a strategic health authority in the NHS with 50,000 staff, which was interesting. About 18 months ago, I was approached by Action Coach. This came out of the blue. Action Coach is world's #1 business coaching operation, been going 25 years, thereabouts. 1,000-odd self-employed people like me in 30-odd countries, coaching typically 15,000 businesses a week. And they said, would I like to join? And I said, actually no, pretty happy doing my own thing. Cut a long story short, I thought actually that would be interesting if I combine their systems, processes, tools, tactics, a whole system that works very well with mine being there, done it, got the scars, made the mistakes, what would that look like? Would it be interesting? And the short answer is it's been very good and gone well. So business coaching, what is it? Why is it useful? Well, most business owners, I think, probably never come across a business coach. To be honest, I haven't come across a business coach. All I knew from my past experience was that there were a lot of times when I felt I needed to talk to somebody, I needed to get things out on the table. I didn't want somebody coming in to run my business, but I actually just needed to bounce ideas off someone. I needed somebody to help me think strategically, to draw me back from the business occasionally, get me working on it rather than in it. Typically, I was working, like most of us in the insurance room, working long hours. I was under the mindset that the longer hours I worked, the more successful I would be. Well, I think actually the thing that I did learn was, in fact, you're better off stopping, taking some time out of the business, necessarily go and have a walk on the beach, but actually get your head clear. And a coach is the kind of person that mentally will do that with you. Come in, talk to you, find out what you're doing. Ian's referred to this earlier on. What are your plans? What are your aspirations? Where are you trying to get to? How are you actually working towards that? What does the business look like? I tend to mentally grab people by the scruff of the neck, drag them back and say, look at it from over here. What does it look like now? And they often go, oh, yeah, it's not quite what I thought it was. It's a bit different. It's not the business I'd originally envisaged. So I'm there to help business owners develop a plan, get some strategy, think it through, make more money. Fundamentally, that's what it's all about. As Ian said quite earlier on, it is about making money because it's about building the lifestyle, building the pot that you want to have when you come to sell the business or do whatever. So it's a really interesting and valuable tool, I feel, to help people get to where they want to get to. I think it comes in at a point that all of my clients have got accountants, of course. I work very closely with their accountants, but I tend to work with clients at an earlier stage. So when they're thinking about exiting, what are they actually going to do? What's the sort of mindset behind that? Where are they going with it? So it's a slightly earlier stage. But how does it help business owners achieve their exit deal? Well, most of the clients that I work with are actually working towards some form of exit. It might be 1, 3, 5. I've actually got one client who's working on a 10-year exit strategy. And that's really about, in his case, as he was referred to, building the team, making sure that they're actually the right people, that they can come in and buy the business from him. That's what he's envisaging. And really sitting down and looking at every aspect of the business, what it's doing, how it's working, where it's not working, how can we improve it, how can we build it into a successful business that is a very desirable business. It's something that business owners typically, I think, will wake up one day and go, do you know, I need to sell this, or I want to sell it in the next year, 18 months, or perhaps 2 years, but don't really have a well thought out plan for achieving it and how they're going to get there and actually getting the business into the best possible shape. And it is about the numbers, and actually, I'm not an accountant by any stretch of the imagination, nor am I a lawyer, but I'm going to talk about some numbers, so with apologies, we'll get to that in a second. So, essentially, selling your business, as Ian said, is about achieving, clearly about achieving the best price. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but mostly, and fundamentally, it's about increasing your business profits to get the business to have the greatest possible value. Typically, businesses are valued at, say, 4 to 8 times. I've got a client at the moment who's a nursing home. They're looking at a 7 times multiple on their business. So anything we can do to increase their profits over the next 3 years, which is their strategy, is going to make a very big difference in terms of actually getting the best possible price for them. And they weren't really fully aware of this when I first sat down with them. They had this vague notion of what the business was going to be worth, but hadn't actually figured out the detail. And interestingly enough, in their case, they have 3 rooms that they're slightly under-letting. for a couple of £100 a week less than other rooms because the residents have run out of money and they've just let them stay there, which they thought was the right thing to do, which I totally understand. However, when I pointed out to them that a couple of £100 a week, which is effectively the profit on those rooms, times 52 weeks of the year was a significant amount of money, and then multiply that by 7, it came out to something like around about a £250,000 giveaway that they were actually not getting, money that they were not going to receive when they sold their business. This was a husband and wife team. The husband said, well, they're very nice old souls, and the wife had an apoplectic fit and said, that's £250,000 that we could put towards buying our kids a flat or paying off our mortgage or doing all sorts of other things. So I let them have that conversation for a few minutes, which was quite interesting, and we are now working towards getting the rooms let at the maximum price. And that's going to take a year or two, but it's an important part of the process. Fundamentally, though, in terms of profits, there are probably 5 things you can do, or 5 ways, or 5 areas that you can actually look at to increase your profits. And here's the numbers bit, and I'll try and keep this short and not too dull, because I must say numbers are not necessarily the most exciting thing in the world. There is an equation which we can look at. One of the things that people say to me frequently is, well, my business needs more customers, or I need more revenue, or I need more profit. And I say to them, actually, well, that's great, but I can't do that. What I can do is help you work on the things that will generate those outcomes, because they are all outcomes of other activities. And the way that this really works is the number of leads, inquiries, whatever it is you have in your business, times the amount of conversion. How many of those leads can you actually turn into customers is what it's going to give you the number of customers at the end of the day. It's straightforward as that. I can't make customers appear. It's about the work you do in the first place. Once you've got those customers in the business, what can you sell to them? How often can you sell to them? And indeed, what can you get them to spend? Because those 2 things will end up with your revenue. Multiply that by the margin of your business, ultimately you're going to come up with a profit. Let me demonstrate that to you in some numbers, and I've created a very simple business here because I have a simple brain. It's easy for me to work through this. This particular business, for the sake of argument, 4,000 leads, 4,000 prospective customers that it can find. It manages to successfully convert 1 in 4 of those 1,000 customers, gets them to buy them twice a year. They spend an average of £100, revenue 200,000 with me so far, multiplied 25% margin, £50,000 worth of profit. Fine, no problem at all. So the question really would be, if we could work on any of those 5 areas, really look at what is involved in actually driving those 5 areas in the business, whether it be better marketing, whether it be better sales, whether it be actually processing our orders, whether it be actually just increasing the average sale, what would it do to the business? And the question I ask people, and the question perhaps you might want to ask yourself, is looking at your own businesses, could you generate a 10% increase in those 5 areas in terms of leads or conversion, etc.? And if you did, what would it mean? So back to my example of business again. So let's just look at the consequence of that. Well, a 10% increase in inquiries will take you from 4,000 to 4,400 inquiries. Yep, pretty straightforward. If we could convert those 10% better, so that's at 27%, not a massive increase, just 10%. What does that mean in terms of customers? Well, surprisingly, it gives us 1,200 customers in a year. It's a significant increase. If we can now look at that again and go, well, could we sell them a little more frequently? Not just twice a year, but 10% more. So 2.2 times, what's that going to do for us? It's going to give us, multiplied by an average sale, get a 10% increase, £110. It's going to give us revenues, significant increase in revenues, surprisingly. So up from our 200,000 to 290,000 pounds. Huge difference by very small incremental changes within the business. And again, we take our margin and go, well, it is 25%, what can we do to improve it? Where can we tweak it? Can we get it up by 10%? Yes, we can. What does that do? Increases our profits from 50,000 to 80,000. Numbers less important than the percentage. That's a 60% increase in profits by a very small but incremental increase of the compound effect of incremental increases across the business. So the question I would ask you again is, thinking about your own businesses, what could you do? Leads, conversion, transaction values. Where could you improve it? What could you do that might take you towards this 60% increase? Now, Money is clearly important. I'm afraid you saw that with the annual rate earlier on. But it's not all about the money. When I work with clients, we look at every aspect of the business. Spend a lot of time looking at other areas of the business. And I probably best sum that up by putting it into 3 areas. Typically, I end up working with clients over the course of 1, 2 or 3 years over these 3 areas. Well, money, yeah, we've looked at that. How can we improve some of those areas? But their team. Very important. Ian alluded to that earlier on. Getting the right team in place. I mentioned earlier that I've got a client working on a 10-year exit strategy, engineering company, and the owner is in his late 50s. He wants to sell the business on to his younger team, but they're in their early 30s. They don't have the skill set yet to take the business on and run it. So we're working really hard over the course of time to upskill them, to get them to a position and a situation where they're capable and confident of running the business. What else could we do with them? Do we need to recruit more people? Do we need to train them better? What are our systems and processes like for our staff? Do they understand what's going on in the business? Which leads me on to time to some extent. A number of business owners that I see tell me that they're working 80 or 90 hours a week. Yeah, fine, very good, but not likely to achieve the best price in the business when you come to sell it. Any prospective buyer is going to come in and look at it and go, well, yeah, if you're going to work 80 or 90 hours, how dependent is this business on you? If you walk out of the door or you run over by a bus, what are we buying? What have we got? So I tell people actually quite a hard truth early on that what I'm there to do with them is to work them out of a job, is to get them to a point where they're not working any longer. And there's usually a rolling of eyes at that stage. Well, I enjoy my job and I have to be here. I'm going, yeah, I understand that, but is that the most important thing in your life? It's the old question, statement, nobody ever said on their gravestone, I wish I spent more time in the office. But it turns out that this is true. Nobody ever did want to spend more time in the office. How can we work them out of their business? My nursing home client, interesting case in point, turns over a couple of million a year, I think, there or thereabouts. The owner, I went to see him recently, just let slip, he said, I've just been to Tesco to buy some soap powder and some cleaning materials. And then, well, that's interesting. Why? Well, I saved 25 quid. So I said, okay, so how long did it take you? Well, a couple of hours. By the time I got there, an hour and a half. So, okay, so you've got a £2 million business making a good profit, and yet you're out doing £10, £12 an hour work. What's that all about? And again, there was a bit of a pause. Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. How could you spend your time more usefully? Could he have spent his time more usefully on marketing? Could he have spent his time more usefully managing his accounts? Actually, he could. But what could he do? What could you do in your business that would be a better use of your time? And a way of actually finding more time in life to stand back from the business, to think about it strategically, to drive it forward. It's something that none of us do, and I've been guilty of that probably as much as anybody over the years. Back to if I just work longer hours and work harder, it'll all come good. It may, it may not. So time, team and money, very important elements, and something that I spend a lot of time looking at. And really where I fit into the equation of accountant and lawyer and coach is I probably come in at the earliest part of the cycle and spend time with people getting their business in the right shape, so when they're working with their accountant, they really can maximise the cash that they're going to receive and maximise their own personal returns. So, taking that on to trying to draw those things to some sort of conclusion, what does that mean for you as the business owner, and what have we learned? Well, interesting quote there from Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google, conservatively worth around about $8 billion. He's on record as saying, he's in the film saying, that he has a business coach and how valuable a business coach has been to him. It's really helped him develop as an individual and it's helped him develop the company. So there's a bit of test case, a bit of history that suggests it might be useful. But the question you probably to ask yourself is, given what I'm doing in the business at the moment and my thoughts and processes about selling it, do I have a plan? What am I doing with that plan? Am I actually spending time working on it? Am I getting drawn into the business doing stuff all day long? Or am I actually spending enough time each week working towards this, doing one thing each week, two things each week that will lead to maybe 50 or 100 changes in the business over the course of time? Are you tracking the right KPIs for your accountant? Are you tracking the right information so when you come to sell the business, you can demonstrate the trends? Again, my nursing home client, good example. They have about an 88-89% occupancy rate. We're working to see if we can improve that to 91, 92, perhaps even 94%. That's going to make a big difference over the course. It's going to take 2 or 3 years, when they come to sell the business, it'll look very positive, very attractive for a buyer. But again, it's about finding the time to do this in an already full day. So I suppose the final question I would leave you to think about is, you already have a full-time job, you're already flat out working, would you benefit from somebody coming in and getting you to stand back from the business over the course of your exit period, whether it's 1 year or 5 years, and actually get to think about the business and drive it forward in the right way to maximise the return that you might get from your business when you come to sell it? Thank you very much.